Well, hello, boys and girls. It's when we feel like 8 o'clock. I'm Pearl of Wisdom, as you know, because everybody in the land knows that. And talking about everybody in the land knows, this is Mmmoneyyyy. The cool thing is nobody knew who he was in face because you only knew the picks that we were doing for NFL. He was like the NFL guru. He was giving us all the picks all through the year. I've been celebrating him ever since I met him on Game Takes, the app that we used to have. We used to do podcasts together.
That was the best.
It was great. It was
awesome.
And I got to listen to him. I'm not even like the biggest NFL guy in the world, but I listen to his stuff all the time because when he went off, it was funny and shit. I loved it. So
thank you.
I was trying to encourage him to come on and do one of these things with him because, as you can tell, he's sporting the hockey guy swag thing there.
Yep.
So he's got all the swag on.
Got the Stanley Cup patch. Tom Wilson right there, number 43. Got my hat.
Washington Capitals, man. We're going to be obviously going to be doing the Washington Capitals today. But he does another podcast. He does it on Anchor. And it's tell them all about it.
Yeah, well, thank you. So my podcast is called On the Money. You can find it on Anchor. You can find it on Spotify, Apple, a couple other podcasts on there too. I just noticed that it all kind of links together. So it's pretty easy to find. Just type it On the Money, and it's just mainly hockey, football, and then obviously I'm a Capitals fan, Ravens fan for football. So those are my two teams, but I'll talk about other teams as well. I haven't done a hockey podcast in a while because there hasn't really been much to talk about. But once that gets up and going, I'm going to flood my podcast with hockey material stuff. I do have one hockey podcast coming up probably within the next week. I have an idea of what I'm going to do, but I just got to put in the work and write down all my notes and make sure I'm ready to go.
Right. And he's agreed that we'll do some NFL stuff on here too. What the heck? I'll have Mmmoneyyyy on as much as anytime I can. We can do it for this channel. Definitely recommend you check out that podcast. So now let's get into some Washington Capitals, but they're definitely in the playoffs. What do you think? What do you think the Washington Capitals need to do this year, or to improve on, or to get further in the playoffs this year? What is it? What have they been doing this year that you think they need to improve? That's what I'm trying to say.
Well, I'll start off with the positives before I get into the negatives.
Sure.
So the biggest area of strength that the Capitals have is their forward depth. No doubt about it. The top six is amazing with Ovi, Backstrom, Tom Wilson, TJ Oshie, Jacob Vrana, Kuznetsov, and even like their bottom six guys. Eller's an amazing third-line center. He can step it up whenever you need him to. He's very good at possessing the puck, very good at making plays, probably one of the smartest players on the ice on our team. He's just awesome to have. And just the experience of the team. They've been to the playoffs a million times, just winning the Cup 2 years ago when no one expected them to. So really going into the playoffs, you don't really know, especially with last year and how dominant the Lightning were in the regular season with them having 65 wins and 3 players with 90-plus points in Kucherov, Stamkos, and Braden Point. They were just a powerhouse, and somehow, some way, Columbus just swept them. So it's like, well, what the hell do we all know at this point, really? And especially with us potentially facing a lot of Metro teams in the playoffs, if the NHL has their way and does a 24-team format, which has been talked about a lot, and I think they're trying to have it more of a divisional base kind of style, and I think they're talking about having 4 host cities, 1 per division. So, I mean, our opponents are going to be dangerous. The Hurricanes are a dangerous team. Their forechecking is relentless. They have some good players on the team. The Penguins, I mean, they've given the Caps problems for 20 years, and they still have Crosby and Malkin. I mean, they would be hard to deal with as well. The Rangers have had a quicker rebuild than expected, and Panarin's been amazing. Zibanejad's had a career year. Adam Fox is underrated. No one ever talks about him, but he's been an awesome rookie defenseman. And then the Flyers, they're dangerous too. They were red hot before the season paused. They were just clicking all over the place, and Carter Hart's been a pretty solid goalie for them, and Giroux and Voracek. They got some good players. So that's definitely something that I'm going to be nervous about, because that's just such a competitive division, and each game and each series would be hard. We would really need to improve our defense in order to be successful. We've given up a lot of 3-on-2s and 2-on-1s throughout the season, and that would piss me off. And, I mean, we just got to improve on that. It's shown signs of improvement before the pause. Not quite good enough, but it has shown signs of it. And getting Brandon Dillon helps, a physical guy. Him and Carlson have been a pretty solid top pair. Nick Jensen's terrible, but there's nothing we can do about it. So just got to find a way to just improve the defense, and that'll help us out. Our power play needs improvement. It's ranked 15th, and to me that's just unacceptable for how talented of a team we are offensively. And our penalty kill's been amazing. I didn't want to forget about that. No one ever really talks about it, but our penalty kill, I think it's in top 5 in the NHL, and I'm not even worried about our penalty kill. But really, at the end of the day, the penalties decrease in the playoffs, especially in the third period. If it's a third period game 7, the refs are just going to hang on to their whistles and not really call anything unless it's something like super serious. So that part, the special team stuff, to me, isn't as big of a factor as it is in the regular season. But it's still important to have. I mean, can the Caps win the Cup? I mean, of course they can, but the opponents, they're going to be tough to deal with leading up to the Cup. And to me, the East is stronger than the West.
Yeah, especially with everybody being healthy now. Columbus, you mentioned last year, did what they did to Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Nobody expected them, including me. I mean,
nobody.
I'm a huge Tortorella fan, as everybody knows. But he even went beyond, like, just stupid. Like, I don't know how anybody could possibly think anybody but Tortorella gets Coach of the Year this year. It's ridiculous. It's insane.
It's got to be him or Sullivan.
It would be him and Sullivan, but I still don't. I mean, that lineup should not have been winning. Simple as that. Just no way.
You know who should be up there too. I think it should really come down to Tortorella, Sullivan, and Brendan Armour on the Hurricanes, because he's had to deal with some shit too.
Yeah, Brendan Moore did well. I mean,
but they're all in the Metro.
You could make a case for Maurice in Winnipeg, and because he lost all that defense, and they still did very well. But they got Hellebuck back there, which is insane.
He should win the Vezina.
For sure. No doubt about it.
Yeah,
there's something wrong with the world if he doesn't win the Vezina. We faced him, I think it was a month before the season paused, and he was the reason why they beat us. We outshot him by, I think, at least 10 or 15 shots, and he was just making save after save. And I was like, man, there's just nothing that can go in on this guy. He's been amazing this year. He better win Vezina. And talking about, like, upper coaches or, like, management, I think McCrimmon does not get anywhere near enough. Not McCrimmon. What's the Washington Capitals general manager?
Oh, McClellan.
Yeah, sorry.
I suck at pronouncing names.
But I think he's done a hell of a job with this team. He's kept this team with contracts. Like, he got a lot of crap with Kuzi getting $7.8 million. That contract looks pretty darn good now. $7.8. He's almost a point a game centerman. It doesn't look too bad at all. And he's kept this team, like you said, a top 6 in a cap world of Ovi, Kuznetsov, Backstrom, Oshie, Wilson, Ellard, Verana. I'd say he's doing pretty darn good.
Yeah, we got some players.
Yeah, like you said, with the defense, though, he took some shots with Kempny and Radko Gudas, good 5-6. It appears to me that Washington could use that one more solid top 4 guy.
Yes. Yeah, that's what we need. We need one more top 4 guy, more so on the right side than the left. Hopefully we can find that somewhere. I mean, it seems like we could re-sign Brandon Dillon to something cheap after this year instead of just having him as a rental. now that Holtby's going to be gone, it frees up some cap. We also need to focus on Ovechkin and Vrana because their contracts expired next year. So this offseason and next offseason are super interesting for the Capitals, and I think our GM's going to get the job done. He knows what he's doing. We just gave Backstrom a 5-year deal. Not counting Ovechkin, our core guys, Backstrom, Carlson, Oshie, Kuznetsov, they're all locked in for at least another 4 to 5 years. So now we got to worry. Well, Ovi's going to – I can't even see Ovi leaving the Caps. There's just no way. And him and Backstrom have talked about retiring together. So I think when Ovi's gone, Backstrom's gone. I think they're both going to just ride off into the sunset in a couple of years. And especially if Ovi breaks Gretzky's goal record, he'll be done after that. Because if he breaks it, he'll be old. I mean, right now he's 34, I think. So he's got a couple of years left in him at least. And he hasn't had too many significant injuries. I don't think he's had anything that big. He's been very durable.
Oh, he's been crazy durable for the type of game he plays. Like,
Yep.
He's one of the best power forwards that ever played the game. We were talking about Eric Lindros before we all started here, but I put Ovi up there easy. He is not, like, people don't pay attention quite often or give enough credit, I should say, to how much of a physical force Ovi is on the ice. Like, he really is a strong, solid, physical player. And
I think he's better than Lindros.
as a player, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I don't know about physically, but as
I don't mean physically. I just meant as an overall player.
Best goal scorer to ever play.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Maybe. Gretzky right now, but I don't know.
I think Ovi. Because if Ovi played in the 80s, he'd get like 100 goals a season.
Possible. Yeah.
Not every season. He would if you like took him, put him back in the 80s, but then you gave him all the or he doesn't have as much of the nutrition and the workout regimen and all that. Like if he had the same circumstances Gretzky, because I mean anybody with a set of eyes can tell you that athletes have gotten better and they've evolved over the years. So I think if you put Ovi back in the 80s, where goal scoring was like insanely high, I think he would crack 100 at least once or twice.
Probably. I can't argue with that. I mean,
yeah, and I mean
Gretzky, a guy that could shoot at will like that. Maybe
yeah.
The closest, not even Gretzky actually. Brett Hall, maybe. Mike Bossy.
Yeah. Bossy can shoot.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the myth about Ovechkin is that people will talk shit and they'll be like, well, Ovi, all he does is stand on the left circle and does the one-timer, which it's like, yeah, that's his best shot. That's clearly his hot spot. Like Gretzky's hot spot was behind the net where he can just set things up. Ovi's is that top left circle, but Ovi can drive to the net if he wanted to, and he can score in the middle of the ice and the right side of the ice. It's just that particular spot is clearly his best spot, and his one-timer is just insanely stupid, especially when Backstrom feeds it to him, because Backstrom's like just an amazing passer. He can just dish it out like no problem. Yeah. So having those two together really helps, and I mean, Ovi can just do it all when it comes to goal scoring. I mean, Gretzky's clearly the best to ever play, at least in my opinion. No one's ever going to be as good as him.
Yeah, I mean, you can make a case for anybody, for a few guys there, but
Lemieux's the closest one, I think.
Well, I'm going further back. To me, Bobby Orr there's never been a player that's been the best defensive and offensive.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. He's insane.
You're splitting hairs here. Honestly, you can make.
There's really 4 people that get talked about.
Gordie Howe, Bobby Orr, Lemieux, and Gretzky.
That's the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Who's the fifth? Who do you put at fifth? It's hard to say.
I think you're going to be able to put Crosby closer to that because he was also an incredible.
That's true.
He's an incredible defensive player.
But do you put another defenseman? Do you put a goaltender in there? What do you do? That's the hard part.
Oh, then you bring in goaltenders, Dominic Hasek or Patrick Waugh. I mean,
yeah.
Right. And another defenseman that's close to Bobby Orr. Nick Lidstrom doesn't get it.
Yeah, Lidstrom was amazing.
Yeah. Anyways, we better continue on here. I wanted to get into Holtby a bit. We know he's not coming back.
He's gone.
What do you agree with them keeping him instead of trading him?
Yeah, I do. A lot of people wanted Holtby traded because he's had a bad regular season, but I'm more comfortable going into the playoffs with having a veteran, having a guy who's been amazing. I mean, everybody knows without Holtby 2 years ago, there's no way the Caps even escaped the first round, let alone winning the Cup. Holtby arguably could have won the Conn Smythe. If they gave him that, I wouldn't have batted an eye. It was obviously going to be between him, Kuznetsov, and Ovechkin, and then ultimately Ovi won it, which I understood that. But if Holtby got it, I wouldn't have complained. Holtby was just amazing, especially in the final against Vegas where he had the save. That was one of the best saves I've ever seen. So, I mean, he can turn it on. He can become Holt Beast. Right now, he's just been in hibernation. It's almost like he's two people. But so I'm more comfortable with having a veteran there, having Samsonov learn under him a little bit more, and then if Holtby does bad, you can just pull him out, put Samsonov in there. And Samsonov's had a pretty good rookie year, but we still have to work on the defense in front of those two goaltenders. And Samsonov, he needs to improve on playing the puck and his glove. More so playing the puck. He sucks at playing the puck, at least in my opinion, from what I've seen. His glove could use a little bit more work, but Samsonov's got a pretty entertaining style. He's quick. He's athletic. To me, he moves quicker than Holtby. Holtby's a little bit more positional than he is. And Holtby, speaking of Samsonov's weakness, it's like the opposite of Holtby. Like Holtby, to me, has always had a good glove. He's always been good at playing the puck. So if Samsonov can learn how to be more effective with that, that would be great. And, I mean, he's only like 23, 22 years old. So we'll have him cheap, not even have to worry about paying a lot for a goaltender. I mean, Samsonov's clearly going to be the number one goaltender on the Capitals next season. Holtby's going to go to a different team, probably some team that really needs a goaltender. I could see him going to Detroit or something like that. So there's no way Holtby's a Cap after this year. I don't see it.
Yeah, I had him maybe going to Buffalo or something like that. But I think
possible. Buffalo's possible.
Yeah, I think it's possible that this has affected Holtby. And if there was one thing about Holtby, it seems he has difficulty engaging in the regular season, and maybe has mental letdowns, especially when he's got something on his mind like, I'm not going to be a Cap after this, and I know it, right? But I have a feeling that when it comes playoff time, like he's done so many times before, he's going to put all that behind him, and he's just going to be a beast again.
I'm hoping. Hey, if he can get another Cup out of us, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, man, I really don't even care all that much who wins the Cup. I just want sports back. If hockey playoffs come back, whether it's 24 teams in a different format, not your traditional one, whatever, I'm okay with it as long as playoffs are back, honestly.
I know. I've had guys say, hey, do you want to do a video on whether they should go 24 or whether – I was like, dude, I don't care what the hell they do. Just whatever works. I trust you that you're doing whatever. Just get, like you said, just get hockey back, man. I can't wait. Can't wait till it's back in baseball and we're back to normal again. And
I just want it all back.
Especially
just to make you happy.
Especially for like what I do. I started capping and I really fell in love with doing it. And doing bets and stuff like that. So I can't wait for that reason. As far as Washington in the off season, I personally think that Washington's got a really good chance still to win this year. Like for all the reasons you mentioned, maybe their defense, but in the playoffs, they don't want to see any injuries. And Brendan Dillon seems to up his game quite a bit in the playoffs when he played for San Jose. So you mentioned that if they could sign him for cheap, I don't think you're going to get Dillon for cheap. There's going to be teams out there that are going to be racing for him. I think he's going to get $4 to $4.5 million, honestly. So I don't know about that. But for this playoffs, Radko Gudas' game is better in the playoff format.
That's true. He's physical. Well, we have physical guys like him and Dillon and Tom Wilson. They all get right on in there. And I mean, you need some physicality in order to win the Cup.
Cap's on a
look at the Blues last year. The Blues were like beating the snot out of teams, especially San Jose. like even though the Blues won in 6, that did not feel like they won in 6.
Oh.
Well, granted the Sharks got gifted a win because of that hand pass that the ref somehow was blind and just didn't see that. So really the Blues should have won in 5. But just watching that series, it really wasn't all that close, and the Blues just they just beat the shit out of the Sharks.
Oh, they physically destroyed them. And
Yeah.
that's what they did the whole playoffs. I was like, if they can keep this up, that's the thing, is being able to keep up the type of game they play. But what I like about Washington is they're big, but they don't need to beat you. They can beat you in so many different ways. Like, they don't need to beat you physically. They can also play a very skilled game. You got Carlson and you got Dmitry Orlov, who I believe is still very underrated as a defenseman. But you also have now you have Gudas and Brendan Dillon that can play physical as well. Forward-wise, TJ Oshie and Nicholas Backstrom, like, you're not going to outskill Washington. Not too many teams are going to outskill Washington. And if you try to outbeat them physically, they're skilled, but they're very. Kuznetsov's not a small guy. Oshie's not a small guy.
Yeah.
Tom Wilson's a beast.
Oshie can get a little physical too.
Lars Eller doesn't back down from anybody. You have Garnet Hathaway. They're solid.
Yeah. And Hathaway I liked a lot. Picking him up, he's been a good bottom 3 guy, and he gets a little chippy too. So I mean, we do have the physicality to win the cup.
I think it just comes right down to whether Holtby can beast himself up again, and no, you don't. I don't think Washington wants any injuries on their defense in the playoffs.
If Carlson went down, we're done.
It would be a difficult time for
He's
sure.
by far our best defenseman.
Yeah, he's incredible. We didn't even talk about what he did
in
this year.
big trouble if we lost him.
We didn't. They didn't even talk. We haven't even talked about the amazing season that he's had this year. Like, it's been generational. This amazing offensive season he's had.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible. They talk about Josie maybe winning the Norris, but I think you got to give it to Carlson, man.
It's hard. I mean, I think I would honestly. I'd probably give Josi the slight edge, only because he's just on a cruddy team, and if you look at the advanced statistics, more so on the defensive side, Josi's a little bit more. I mean, it's going to be one of those two that wins it, but I could see either or winning it, and like I'd be fine with that. But Josi's really good. He's just. Yeah. I mean,
the Josi side of things, he's probably their best player, period, too, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's the best player on Nashville. Yeah,
for sure.
He's incredible. Carlson's incredible too. I think. See, the Norris is like complicated too, because they tend to favor the offensive people a lot more, and people have argued for the Norris to be split in two, where it's best offensive defenseman, which I think Carlson's the best offensive defenseman, and then they've talked about not. They, as in the people that create the awards, but just fans and all that stuff. A defensive defenseman award would be great, and in that case, I think Jacob Slavin's the best defensive defenseman. He's incredible on the back end, and he's just awesome. But I mean, ultimately, that's just not a thing. So I mean, the Norris, that's Carlson or Josi. It's one of those two.
That's so weird, the defensive defenseman, because I would basically, their idea is a defenseman that doesn't get much offense, but is a really good defenseman getting an honor. But that does not mean that they're the best defensive defenseman. Sometimes the best defensive defenseman is an offensive defenseman as well. Like
That's
Hedman.
true. I was just about to say Hedman. Hedman's amazing.
Hedman's insane on D. There's no better defensive defenseman, I think, in the league.
I think Hedman's the best overall in the league.
Yeah, I think so too.
He's unbelievable.
I agree with you. So, like, how do you give them, like,
it's
if you're
hard.
talking about a defenseman that doesn't get much offense, I'd say, like, you mentioned a good one in Slavin, but I'd also say Josh Manson in Anaheim. He's incredible defensive defenseman that doesn't really get all that much offense.
Yeah.
I'm not sure there has to be a award for that, though. I think it just makes it more difficult because
there's so many awards already.
Yeah.
The next thing they're gonna do is, all right, we're gonna have an NHL award for best hair, best beard, best this.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now,
Yeah,
there's a good amount of awards. I mean, some of them are easier. I mean, the Art Ross is easy, Rocket's easy, stuff like that.
yeah, best skating style or some stupid thing like that.
Most entertaining.
Yeah. Anyways, buddy, we're getting close to 30 minutes. That was fast. But we
Oh,
got
wow.
a lot of stuff out there today.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Oh, yeah. I enjoyed every minute of it. Check out the podcast. Hit the subscribe and bell here so we can grow this and get more people. I heard a rumor that David Staples from the Journal might show up on this programming someday. So, yeah, that'll be exciting. So hopefully we can have that happen. We'll have you back for sure. We'll talk some football or whatever you want to do. You were amazing today. I love you, man. Always have. And I was so happy you came on today.
Not a problem. I'm glad I can contribute. I'll be back on here.
Everybody have a great day. Lots of love to you.